We are sponsored by Raze Energy, powered by the enhanced refresh technology. Raze Energy delivers with a performance-enhancing energy drink that aids in the most often overlooked categories. Raze Energy targets focus, enhances your recovery time, improves clean energy levels, and boosts your stamina and hydration. Most importantly, each single can of Raze Energy has absolutely 0 calories, 0 sugar, and 0 carbohydrates, which that gives you a smarter and more healthier option. You should not have to settle for an energy drink that contains more sugar and carbs than you can count. Opt for the #1 fan-voted energy drink on the market today with Raze Energy. If you want to get yourself a can of Raze Energy, go to repsports.com, REPP sports.com. Use my promo code HPP1000, HPP1000 at checkout, and you will receive a generous discount. You know, Dano's Seasoning is changing the world one table at a time by offering the best all-natural, low-sodium seasoning products on the market. Dano's goals are to provide you with real flavors to make healthier food choices without ever having to sacrifice the real taste. Dano's includes low sodium, which is only 50 milligrams per serving. It has all natural, unrefined sea salt. There's no sugar, no MSG, no chemicals, and it's completely gluten-free. Also, there's 100% natural ingredients. Dano's Seasoning is the most versatile seasoning on the market. Grill, smoke, bake, create soups, sauces, marinades. You can also sprinkle Dano's on your eggs, your potatoes, maybe some pizza, maybe some pasta, and even while you're watching a movie, sprinkle some Dano's on popcorn. Heck, if you're crazy, why don't you put some Dano's on ice cream? Any food that exists, you can put some Dano's on it. Go to danoseasoning.com, use my promo code HODGEPODGE, capital H and a capital P in Hodgepodge. Guys, remember to do that. Just like the spelling of the podcast, a capital H and a capital P in Hodgepodge. You can try all 3 flavors, which include original, spicy, and hot chipotle right now today. It's damn good. Yum yum. Get you some. Alright, welcome to the Hodgepodge Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Dylan Hodge, but you guys already know that I'm on Instagram and I'm on Twitter at I am Mr. Dylan Hodge. You can follow the podcast as well over on Instagram at the Hodgepodge Podcast. Wherever you are listening to this podcast, wherever you drove up to, wherever you downloaded it, I really do thank you for clicking on this episode. Maybe you know who the guest is today, or maybe you're just listening to the podcast because you're a fan, or maybe you're just trying out a new podcast. Whatever it may be, I really do appreciate you guys clicking on this, downloading it, and also leaving a 5-star review, which is absolutely free. Wherever you are listening to this, hit that subscribe button and then give me a 5-star review and write a little review that helps us grow on the podcast charts. If you're listening to this over on YouTube, once you hit the subscribe button on YouTube and hit the little notification bell right there next to the subscribe button, that's going to let you know whenever I do put out a new video on the YouTube channel, which is usually every week. So that's enough of the kind of the promotional things here. Not a lot really to talk about. The movie reviews are now going to be on a different. Okay, so here's how it's going to go. I don't want to confuse anybody. So back in the day when I was doing movie reviews, I would post up the podcast and the interview, right? I would post the interview as it is, and then before that, I would post the movie reviews. Same channel, same Hodgepodge Podcast, just not going to be on the same episode. It's going to be 2 different episodes every Monday. Movie reviews. Speaking of every Monday, we are. I don't want to say this too soon, but I go ahead. I've already decided I'm going to do this. We are going to be rebranding. We're not going to be rebranding as a lot of people think we're going to change the name. We are going to be doing a lot of changes on the podcast. I will go more in depth probably the week before we do that. I may even take a week or 2 off before we do that, but not to worry about that now. We got a little over a month before that's going to take place. So it's gonna be a good one. I'm working on new episodes of the podcast. I'm going to rewatch, or I'm not going to rewatch. I'm going to watch every live action movie that they have created per a Disney cartoon. So I'm not going to be Cruella and Maleficent, that's not going to be in the list because they did not create a Cruella movie. You understand what I'm saying? Like, there was not a Cruella cartoon. If they remake 101 Dalmatians now, I'm not doing the one from Glenn Close. I'm not doing that. I'm doing the newer ones that's happening right now. So like The Lion King, Beauty and the Beast, Mulan, Aladdin. Those types is what I'm doing now. I heard they're redoing 101 Dalmatians, which is why I'm not going to review the ones with Glenn Close. So we've also got a new segment coming up I'm working on as well. I've been working nonstop with these rebranding things that we have going. And I'm going to be doing country music history, and I'm going to be doing music history in general. Not really going to tell you what that entails yet, because you will get that later. So just an FYI, we are going to be rebranding here soon. Not changing the name, not changing the platforms, nothing like that. Just a different way of doing the podcast. And you guys will see that. You guys will see that very soon. Like I said, in the next month or two. Closer to the next month than the 2-month mark. So that's where we are today. Thanks to Dano Seasoning for sponsoring this podcast. You guys heard the ad in the very beginning of the podcast, like it always is. I just want to take time to thank the sponsors for jumping on here. Dano Seasoning and Raze Energy. Raze Energy has been with me for almost 2 years now. Dano's just jumped on a few months ago. So appreciate to those guys. Thanks to Dan for taking the chance on me. I really do appreciate you, Dan. All right, enough of my yapping. Let's go into the introduction for today's guest on the podcast. So on today's episode of the podcast, we've got Shana Francesca, or Shana Fandon, whatever you want to call her. She is the founder and lead designer of Concinnate. She talks about growing up in an abusive household from mother and father, mental and physical, and all the type of abuse you can have. Creating a make-believe vision board. And this is weird for me because I've never had anyone that is like home design. It's what she does. She majored in design in college, and it's really weird because I never thought I would see myself doing these types of podcasts. But we got linked up from a friend, and I thought her story was great enough to have her on. So that's why she's on here. I know it's different, but sometimes you need different in podcasts. So again, creating a make-believe vision board for herself, when she was, being abused, and when she was at home alone to avoid the abuse, she was in her room and she was just make-believing, I'm going to do this someday, I'm going to do this someday, to block out the pain. And that's what she's talking about today. She's also talking about gaining traction, and then the economy fell of 2008. It's a really great chat. About 30 minutes here for the podcast. So I appreciate Shana for coming on the show, and I appreciate you guys for listening in. Without further ado, let's go over right now to Shana on the Hodgepodge Podcast. There we go. Hey, how you doing, Shana?
Good, Dylan. How are you?
Good. Let me flip I'm having to use the good old lucky iPad because my laptop wanted to restart and refresh at like 225 as soon as we were about to do this, and I was like, well, let me get out the old iPad here. But thanks for joining me. Thanks for reaching out as
Yeah,
well.
absolutely. Yeah, no problem. I try to be proactive with Podmatch. It's always better. I don't know. I feel like I have better matches when I actually reach out to the podcast person, the podcast host, because sometimes the people who reach out to me, they're weird.
Right, yeah. No, I get it.
Some of these podcast hosts are weird, and I'm sure actually you experience perhaps the other way around, but some of them are real weird, and I'm like, no, I don't want to do a 25-minute PowerPoint presentation on your podcast.
Well, look, I'm a weird person, but I think we're all weird, but I'm not the type of weird people that I'm sure.
We're all weird.
We're all weird, but...
Yeah, we're all weird. Yeah.
So, kind of, before we jump in here, I'm not really sure where to go with this, so let's just jump into it and kind of introduce yourself. There's kind of a different way for me starting the podcast. You just jump in and kind of just do like a chat, but kind of introduce yourself, what you do, and stuff like that.
Sure. And do you want to start recording now?
Hey, I've been recording since we started.
Okay, great. I'm good.
You never know. It's the number one rule of podcast. As soon as it starts, I have to record because you don't know where a conversation could lead.
Nope.
So
you don't.
It's always a good point about it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. So my name is Shana Francesca. I'm an interior designer and a life designer. And what I mean by life design is that what I learned through being an interior designer for the last 15 years is that intention is a function of design. And when we apply a level of intention to our lives, to all aspects of our life, we start to design our life. We start to create the life that we want rather than kind of letting our life just proceed as it proceeds. We start to intentionally be able to lean into a really beautifully designed life. And that just kind of came about based on, who I am and how I grew up and understanding how important our physical surroundings are in affecting our mental health and being a reflection, in part at least, of how we see ourselves.
So, what is the name of this? Concinnate? Is that the name of the company?
Yeah. So my design firm is named Concinnate, and it's an archaic word. It's a real word. It just happens to have fallen out of the lexicon. It means harmony by design, and it really speaks to what I do and what we do as a company.
So how did you get into like interior design to begin with? Like I understand that you're female, and it's mostly interior design is mostly not playing the sexist card, but it's mostly a female ran company or business. Like
Yes.
Like I know Vanilla Ice for some reason got a degree in interior design, and that was crazy to me. I was like, guys in interior design. So how did you get into this? Is it something that you've done your whole life?
Yeah, well, so that's what I have my degree in. I have a BS in interior design. But what actually led me to interior design was my childhood. So I grew up in an abusive household, and I started to notice how important it was for me to visually be able to conceptualize a life that I wasn't available to me at the moment, right? So I started ripping pages out of magazines and taping them on my walls, and I started writing down inspirational quotes. You were just
trying to escape the realism from fantasy.
Yeah, I was trying to imagine a different life, and I didn't know how I was going to create it in real life. I had no idea how it was going to happen. I just knew that I couldn't stay living how I was living. Literally, I wasn't going to stay living. Suicidal ideation became a significant part of my teenage years, and I realized that it wasn't that I didn't want to live; it's that I didn't want to live like that, and I did not want to become the people that I was surrounded with. I didn't want their life. I didn't want it at all. And so my escape, my way of learning how to be a human being in line with the life I wanted to create was to learn from other human beings, but I didn't have access to them. So they needed to be mentors in my head, right? So I needed to access inspirational quotes and to read and to and to visualize and to do all these things. And I didn't have the language. I didn't know what I was doing was creating a vision board for my life, right? By pasting up all these things. And I used my wall as one giant, my bedroom really as one giant vision board. And really just helped to like remind myself every time I left my bedroom was my sanctuary. And every time I left it, okay, I've got these things to remind me of who I really want to be when I leave this room. And then I started also noticing that when really traumatic things would happen in the house, that I would rearrange the furniture in my bedroom. And it was like I was releasing what was so that I could set the stage for something new to happen. And I needed my physical environment to change so that I could change my mind about what was going on in my life. I really needed to physically reset the stage. And it wasn't until years later that I recognized that's what I was doing. And it would happen like every 3 to 6 months, I would rearrange my bedroom. And not that it had that many available configurations, but somehow I just found slightly different ways to do it for like years and years. And ultimately I realized that interior design was a thing. And I recognized how impactful my physical environment was for me. And so I recognized that it must be that way for other people too. And I decided to go to school to be an interior designer, and, you know, have been now a professional interior designer for 15 years, and then started my firm, which is now Concinnate, 5 years ago.
Now let me ask you this. To be considered a professional interior design, is that just right after you get your degree, are you considered a professional, or is it after you have so many years in the business, in the industry?
So there's several ways to be able to be an interior designer. And the difference between a decorator and a designer is really like training or mentorship. So you can be mentored under a professional interior designer. I think it's 6 years, it's 4 to 6 years.
Okay.
And then be able to say, okay, I know enough about interior design to now be called an interior designer. Or you have to go to an accredited university. And really, we work alongside with architects. We do drawings. We understand building code. All of these go into being an interior designer. So you don't have to go to school to be an interior designer, but you do want to train underneath a professional interior designer to be one, yeah.
So take me back a little bit, and we're going to keep this, you know, I know we scheduled for like a 30-minute one, but kind of quickly, kind of take me back to when, you know, you were in an abusive home. Kind of, did that put a mark in your mind where you're like, okay, I know exactly how I'm not going to raise my kids. I know exactly how I'm not going to do stuff, do this, do that. Because I didn't grow up in an abusive household, but I grew up in a broken household, I guess you could say. You know, parents still together, but it was flip-flopped everywhere. You know, you didn't know what everything was going to happen in a day. Yeah. And I realized that I was like, okay, two things. One, if I have kids, I'm not going to raise them this way. And two, I know that I need to be successful in some sort of way so I don't have to be this way. That makes sense.
Yeah, I guess for me, what started to come up was originally, I just don't want to be my parents, right? And
right, yeah.
I'm like, I'm not going to be my parents. But what I recognize is what we focus on becomes bigger. And again, I didn't have that language. It's not like I was saying, oh my gosh, I'm focusing on this, so I'm becoming more like my parents. Maybe that's how it eventually came up. But I was journaling a lot. I was reading poetry and writing poetry. I was writing short essays. I was finding all these outlets for creative expression, dance and drama and acting and singing, and all of these ways to kind of work through my trauma. That was one way, but I started to recognize that wanting to not be like my parents wasn't enough. And for me, yes, I did say, you know, if I have kids, I don't want to raise them like this. So I knew I needed to resolve my own trauma, because what I recognize is that my parents have so much unresolved trauma.
Right.
And that's where the abuse came from, right? That's where their anger toward one another and ultimately towards us came from, is their unresolved trauma and their fear around all of it, right? And so I had to recognize that to not be like my parents, I had to focus on the good stuff, and I had to focus on growing myself and becoming a better person. And I didn't know how the hell to do that, right? Because, can I say bad words?
Yeah,
I didn't know how the heck to do that. Okay.
No, you're good.
I was like, wait, I didn't know how in the world to do that. I just knew that I knew that there was someone out there who had a better life than me, right? Like there's these levels of language. There's life sucks, which is this idea that all life sucks no matter what. And then there's the idea that my life sucks, right? And I got to the place where I understood that my life sucked. Not everybody in the world, not just mine, but all that I cared about was the fact that mine sucked. And I needed to find a way to be like the people whose life didn't suck.
Yep.
And so that's where reading came in, and you know, like my version of meditation when I was a teenager was going for a walk. Like I would just go for a walk almost every day. And I grew up on the East Coast, so like sometimes that walk was like in a blizzard, but I just needed to be outside, and I needed to be away from the abusive environment, and I needed to be able to hear my own thoughts, and to figure out who and what I was. So there was this like path of, I don't want to be like my parents, but how do you do that? What does that look like? I have no idea. And it was a messy process, and I failed a lot, and I still do because I'm human. But it's one that I pursue on a daily basis, is making sure that I'm checking in with myself and like, okay, I think I could do this better next time, and this is how, right? And just doing that check-in and holding myself accountable.
Okay, so you go to college, you get your degree in interior design. What's the exact next step that's happening right there? So you graduate, you get your diploma. Next day, what's happening? Are you just like, okay, I got to start a business on my own, or am I going to? Okay.
Dylan, this is an interesting thing. So I'm an elder millennial. So I'm 37.
Okay.
So I graduated college in 2007.
Okay.
And anyone who remembers 2008 will know exactly what's coming next. So I graduated from college. I was trying to navigate the world of understanding like what's going to happen next. Had been interning at a place and was still working there, but started applying to large commercial design firms. Started to gain a lot of traction. I actually didn't want to start until the spring of the after I graduated from college, because I was going to China on the end of the year.
Okay, can I stop you right there? I'm gonna stop you right there. I got a question. Yeah. You said you were gaining traction. What does that mean in this world?
Meaning I was being interviewed to work at these large design firms.
These
large, like top 50 interior design firms.
Was it because you were that good, or was it just out of pure luck? Okay.
No, because I was that good.
Okay. Okay.
Then what happens next is the whole economy crashed. And I was one interview away from being hired at a top 50 firm that happens to be located in Philadelphia. And they had to lay off 50 people the day before my final interview. Yeah. And the business dried up virtually. It had been drying up, but it virtually dried up overnight. And so that actually pushed me to follow a very non-traditional path. I ended up being head of design at an audiovisual and unified communication company, designing off-track betting facilities, casinos, large pharmaceutical companies, designing how technology integrated with all of the furniture, with all of the rooms, and really, where all of these television monitors are. Did that for like 3 years. Then went into the commercial design world, brought in my own clients, designed their office space, sold furniture. So I was doing sales and design, did that for 10 years. And then was like, if I keep building business for other people, right, I can do it for myself.
Yeah.
And I'd really love to get out of the commercial world, because just doing commercial work can be really redundant. It's a lot of workstations, a lot of conference rooms, it's a lot of very rectilinear space in most cases. And very cookie cutter. And so I started clients started coming to me on the side, and my business essentially started itself because I had 2 massive renovation projects for clients, one full home design, and then a massive bathroom. It's like 17 by 17 with vaulted ceilings as a $30,000 bathroom renovation. And I was like, I'm pretty sure my business just started itself. I think I should do this for real. And so I started doing that part-time until I took it full-time 3 years ago.
So what was it like, doing part-time? So obviously you have to do another job to support the job that you want to do full-time. What was it like when
Yeah.
you were finally able to say, hey, look, I'm putting in my notice or I'm just quitting because I'm going at this thing full force? What was that like?
Yeah. So I was 6 months away from quitting, and the job I was working at knew that. I had given them a timeline. Unfortunately, what I didn't know is that they were in serious financial trouble. And so they ended up having a huge round of layoffs.
Ah, gotcha.
And so right 6 months before I was going to quit, they laid a whole bunch of people off. So I was in that first round of layoffs because they knew I was going to quit eventually anyway. So it kind of shot me in the foot. So really the universe decided it was time. I was like, I'm going to save up for the next 6 months. The universe was like, no, just go for it. And at that moment, it was April 4th of 2019. I just took the business full time.
So from 2008 to 11 years after 12 years after you graduated, you were working all these jobs, working for other people, and then you decided to finally do your own stuff, pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, entrepreneurship wasn't foreign to me. It's something that, I'd always kind of been like a stick in my craw, or whatever metaphor we want to use. It had always been something that had always stuck to me and always been part of my life. So as a kid, I had a lemonade stand, and then I had do you remember like people would like braid bracelets, all these different colors, and we had all this thread and stuff.
Right.
And so I had like a custom bracelet making company. I had a snow shoveling business. I had a babysitting business. I had all of these different things that I did to make money for myself. And then I started working like 30 hours a week when I was 14. So there had always been this like desire to create something for myself. I just didn't know how to do it. And also, like, as a woman, you're raised to be a wife, not to be a business owner. And so there was always that in the back of my head that, I might have a business, but I'm supposed to be a wife first. And at some point I just realized that that's not what I wanted. Partnership, yes, but I don't want marriage, and I don't want kids. I want my business. I want to grow this beautiful thing that I feel inside of me every single day. That's what I want. And I want a partner who's interested in building that with me. I don't necessarily need a ring to decide that I love or care for someone. So my business is my baby, and it's what I love, and it's not my whole life. But it is an important part of my life.
No, I feel you 100% because I'm kind of the same way. I'm like, I don't need anybody. Like, sure, it would be nice. Do you get lonely? Of course.
Sure.
But who doesn't get lonely? Who doesn't? But the thing is, at the end of the day, and this is, I'm going to get hate so much for saying this, but at the end of the day, the business is not going to break your heart. Is that a fair thing to say? I mean, come on. I mean, think about it. It's not going to leave you. Sure, it's going to break your heart in certain aspects, but it's never.
I was going to say,
but it's never going to leave you. What I'm saying, it's never going to leave you if you have full grasp control of it. It's never going to leave you, and that is the breaking heart thing that I'm talking about. It's and it's
I get that. It's not even that for me though, and I do get that 100%. For me, it's not about the control or the guarantee, because there's no guarantee in anything, and there's a reason why most businesses fail in the first year. It's because people do not understand how hard it is.
Yep.
And if you are not 1,000% sure that it is what you want to do, you're never going to make it past 10 months. 10 months you're going to hit that 10-month mark and you're going to crumble. Because even if you are committed, you get near crumbling. But it's not that for me as much as it's so tied to my purpose and who I am. And I'm so passionate about it. And I change people's lives with what I do. This is not just making their homes beautiful. Clients, most of my clients, when we're done, they're like, I understand how this was going to change my life until this moment, until it's done. And now I'm seeing it. Now I feel it. Now it's changed every aspect of my life, you know, because I can finally be fully represented in my own home. I truly believe that our homes are a vision board for our life. And so like when our home fully supports us, when we can entertain the way that we want to, or we can, and our home is a place of peace and of rest, or our home is a place where we can entertain and have friends and feel connection. When all of these things, or whatever the things we need our home to be, when that is truly realized, it supports us in an intentional, beautiful, well-designed life. And I don't just mean how beautiful your home is. I mean that you get to experience your life the way that you want to. That's really, really important to me. And I don't need someone to complete me. I want partnership, and I want a beautiful relationship in my life, and love, sure, but I don't need it, because I have beautiful friendships and I have beautiful relationships in my life already. So I don't need it. I want it. There's a difference.
Right. There's a big difference.
Big difference. Yeah.
I don't need a giant TV. Damn, I want one.
Right. Yes. Yeah. And right now, quite frankly, it would be unfair for me to ask someone to be in a relationship with me, because I work insane hours, and sometimes my brain won't shut off, and I'm up till 3:00 in the morning writing a keynote, or working on a page on the website that I just want to tweak the language a little bit, or I'm sending out something to a client, or I'm reaching out to someone like you, Dylan, and being like, hey, I love your podcast. I'd love to be part of it. Right. Like there's all these things that I'm doing that I don't want to have to like, this sounds so selfish, but I don't want to have to like consider someone else and their feelings. I don't want to hurt someone else's feelings because they feel ignored. Because if I have to take away from what I'm doing right now, I don't want to. I love what I do, and right now, I need to be doing what I'm doing. I don't have room for someone else right now in the plans.
I'll say this because I feel you don't want to selfishly say that you don't want, and I don't want someone that's going to take time away from my business. Right. Let's just be blunt. Let's be blunt.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe my podcast, maybe your company will get to the multi-million-dollar level. Then maybe, sure, I'll think about it, because it has made its time. It has, and also the point is, it's like you were mentioning, females were. It was the same with my sister, my younger sister. She was growing up. It was, hey, you better watch how men treat other ladies, because you don't want a man like that. Instead of, you need to figure out how to change diapers because you're going to be changing. Instead of this whole thing, and it's the same thing with the men. It's like you need to know how to work, because if you don't know how to work, how are you going to take care of someone?
Yeah.
But my thing is
gender roles. Yeah,
gender roles, and that's the worst thing about it, because it's like maybe because I can't take care of I can't even take care of myself right now, let alone 2 or 3 other people. It's crazy, and it's like. I also don't want something to pull me away from the podcast, the production company, because if I do, then I'm not going to put my 100% in it. Let's be honest.
Right. Well, that's the thing. That's the thing, is that so much of our society has taught women, especially over the last decade, like we can be super women, we can do and have it all. But I don't want to be a superwoman. I just want to be myself. I don't want to have to take care of a husband and children and a household and all of these things, and then not have any energy left for my business, or to feel like I'm sacrificing the feelings of my family so that I can choose to do the thing I really want to be doing. That's not fair. That's not okay. And yeah, sure, I could have it all, but it will require sacrifice. And there's sacrifices I don't want to make. So the sacrifice I choose is to sacrifice having a family and children, because that's not something I really actually want. So I'm not interested in sacrificing my business so that I can fulfill societal norms. I love my life. So not having to check in with someone or be like, hey, I'm actually just going to like get on a plane and go on vacation for a week and work from Aruba for a week. I want to be able to do that and not have to worry about a dog or kids or a husband or all of those things. It's not that I'll never get to the place where I'll have a partner. It's just that for the next I don't know how long. It could be a week. It could be a year. It could be 10 years. That's just not in the plans.
Shit, it could be in the next 30 minutes. You could jump off here, check an email, and somebody's offering you $1 billion for the company.
No, I would never sell.
That's what I'm saying. I never would.
Succession plan, but I would never sell. I mean, there's already an idea around, creating a succession plan in the next 3 years, but no selling. Absolutely not. I won't even take on a partner.
Well, yeah, me neither. I'm like, I had a business partner at one time, and I was like, this isn't This isn't working out very well because I didn't see eye to eye, and I kind of thought that he was pushing it where I wasn't comfortable, and I said, all right, let's just going to hightail out of here because I don't like it. Like, he didn't have control of the podcast. But we were trying to build the production company into what I wanted to, and it was his. He had a whole different thing about what I wanted, and I thought it was supposed to go.
Yeah.
It's the OCD thing that took over, but
yeah.
It's crazy out there. So, a couple more things here, and I'll let you go, Shana. So,
Sure.
I kind of want to know then versus now. What's something you would change and something you would keep the same? Then, as in you graduated college and you started, you wanted to do this versus where you're at now.
I don't know that I would change a single thing. Because if I changed a single thing, I wouldn't be who I am today.
That's the answer I was looking for. Because a lot of people would say, a lot of people would be like, yeah, there you go. A lot of people would be like, I would change this and that. And I'm like, well, then you don't have a story. You can't possibly have a story.
Yeah. Yeah. We all have our own journey and our own path. And I think mine led me to where I am today. If I change any single thing, then I change the trajectory of my life and I wouldn't be here. I don't know what life I would have. I could have, if I made different decisions, I could have been making crazy amount of money, and then I might have never founded my business, right? Like, I made good money when I was laid off, really good money, but not crazy money, right?
Yeah.
It was good money, but it wasn't crazy money, right? And so I don't know if I had been making like further into the six figures, would I have started my business? I don't think so. So if I had become this rock star in the design world right away or within 5 or 10 years, I don't know. I don't know. No, I don't. I wouldn't change a single thing. Not a single thing.
What's the best word of advice you can give to any person that's not just in interior design, but that's in business?
Intention is everything. If you're not sure of why you're doing something and you're not sure of what you're trying to accomplish, then why are you doing it, right? Because it's not going to provide the answer for you. I think it's really important to understand our intentions going into every single moment of the day. And to also understand that as we change, those intentions change. As we change, our purpose changes. And we need to sit down and update and understand who we are and how that affects what we're trying to accomplish.
Well, Shana, look, I took 30 minutes of your time, and I do appreciate it. But right now, anything you got going on, any social media you want to plug, take all the time you need.
I'm right now, I would love people just to check out our website. It's Concinnate.world, and, check out and see all those things that we're doing. And, I'm also embarking on, doing more speaking engagements and really talking about just living a life, well-designed and intentional life. So anybody has any ideas or anybody has any events they'd love me to be able to speak at, definitely send me an email.
Well, look, Shana, I appreciate your time on here. Thanks for reaching out. It was a great chat. I learned a lot that I didn't really have notes on, so I appreciate that.
Yeah. Thanks, Dylan. I appreciate you having me.
Dano Seasoning is changing the world one table at a time by offering the best all-natural, low-sodium seasoning products on the market. Dano's goals are to provide you with real flavors to make healthier food choices without ever having to sacrifice the real taste. Dano's includes low sodium, which is only 50 milligrams per serving. It has all natural unrefined sea salt. There's no sugar, no MSG, no chemicals, and it's completely gluten-free. Also, there's 100% natural ingredients. Dano's seasoning is the most versatile seasoning on the market. Grill, smoke, bake, create soups, sauces, marinades. You can also sprinkle Dano's on your eggs, your potatoes, maybe some pizza, maybe some pasta, and even while you're watching a movie, sprinkle some Dano's on popcorn. Heck, if you're crazy, why don't you put some Dano's on ice cream? Any food that exists, you can put some Dano's on it. Go to danoseasoning.com, use my promo code HODGEPODGE, capital H and a capital P in Hodgepodge. Guys, remember to do that. Just like the spelling of the podcast, a capital H and a capital P in Hodgepodge. You can try all 3 flavors, which include original, spicy, and hot chipotle right now today. It's damn good. Yum yum. Get you some.